We are in a little bit of a different place today, somewhere I've not taken you before. I think you'll find it interesting. Well, I do anyway. We are at the Cosmo Isle Hakui, which is a space and UFO centre. Kind of looks like a UFO as well. So I'm keen to get you inside and take a look. So the Mercury Redstone rocket here on display. That's what the Mercury command pod would have been sat right at the top there. Stood at 26.6 meters in total height. 2 successful flights made in 1961. So although this isn't an actual rocket, this is actually made from the leftover materials from one of the rockets. So I guess it's as close to the real thing as you can get. Up first we have a Mercury mission spacecraft. This is one of the crafts that would have been mounted to the Mercury rocket, which I believe is the one out the front of the building, which I think I've shown you already. It's cool, there's some steps up here to see inside. Pretty cramped conditions there. So the astronaut was actually the limitation within here. Because of such cramped conditions, they were limited to about 1.8 meters in height and 82 kilograms of weight. Pretty, it looks pretty complicated, but considering all of this is powered by something probably less powerful than your calculator, quite impressive. So this is the Vostok spacecraft, which was launched on 1961, and it's the first manned space flight by the Russians, I believe. It completed 1 orbit of the Earth. Fairly basic interior. Very different in design. Quite interesting though. I guess these are the connectors, probably, that connect to some other part of the craft. So this is an actual one that was flown in space, or was in space, hence the burn marks and scorch marks are from re-entry. Another interior shot. So this is a Lunar and Mars rover prototype built by NASA. It could be controlled by a person or remotely. Has a range up to about 1,610 kilometers that it can be remotely controlled. I believe that's some kind of camera sat there on top. Each of the wheels has its own motor and can travel a top speed of 16 kilometers per hour. So this is a Monlia, I think that's pronounced correctly, satellite that was launched in 1965 and 1971. There were 2 satellites. This satellite is actually the reserve satellite for if, I guess, one was damaged or couldn't fly. Quite interesting. It's quite cool to see the engineering designs on these kind of things, because everything is kind of minimalist to keep the lightweight, but at the same time very advanced in technology. Very cool. So it was made as a communications satellite. The RL-10 engine, which is a hydrogen type engine, built quite a while ago, but it's still in use today just because of the efficiency of it. Hydrogen being one of the most efficient fuels known to man. I wonder what the GTR would be like with one of them strapped to it. So this is an Apollo command module. Just reading the description, the outer surfaces are original leftovers kind of from production, but the interior has been faithfully restored or replicated, should I say. I wouldn't say it's much of a area to be working in or living in. Living quarters this is of the Apollo. Quite cramped. A lot more switches in there now, but still probably less powerful than your calculator. It's amazing to see how cramped it is sat here on the ground, but imagine being inside of this going several thousand miles an hour above the Earth's atmosphere. Crazy. So from what I can make out, the Voyager spacecraft, or satellite I guess, that was sent out into space, had on board a golden record which had some hieroglyphs. I'm not sure if you can quite see that because of the camera angle, but also it contains some images, music, sound and greetings from kind of all over the world. I'm not sure how much of that I can really show because of copyright, but it's interesting some of the images that are contained. I'm sure it's on the internet somewhere, but I recommend checking it out because it's quite interesting. So here is I would say a replica of one of the Voyager spacecraft, satellite, whatever you'd want to call it, spacecraft I guess it is. It's much bigger than I expected it to be. But what I did find out is reading the description is that this boom and the materials covering all of the instruments are actually original. It's just the other parts that are replications. But yeah, it's much bigger than I expected, kind of almost the size of a truck I guess, or a bus. But it's quite hard to gauge the size of things in space because there's nothing to really compare it against. But all of the pictures I've seen made it out to be a lot smaller than this. But yeah, it's really, really smart. I guess this is a replication of the Apollo missions. Again, the lunar lander or landing module is much bigger than I expected. Some big kind of satellite dish there, and I guess this is the trajectory that they took, and some more images from landing off the moon. Astronaut spacesuit. I believe this is a real one. So not only does this museum have space stuff in it, it also has UFO stuff in it. I think there'll be more to show you in a little bit. Some cool things around the base of this landing module. Some kind of experimentation kit by the looks of it. Don't want to get too close to that, I guess. So this was part of the lunar landing missions by the Russians, or the USSR at the time. This actual probe, I guess it's called, actually was Luna 24, which made a soft landing on the moon, collected some lunar sand and stone and brought it back to Earth. It's quite cool that they actually have genuine kind of artifacts, not artifacts I guess, but genuine things that have been into space here on display in the museum. It's quite impressive. Looks more like a submarine or something with all the domed parts. I guess all storage tanks or something for something or another. So this is one of the Viking landers, or a replica I believe of one of the Viking landers. They sent it off into space towards Mars. Took I think 10 to 12 months to get there. This was the landing part of it. There was a orbital part that stayed in orbit, this went down to the surface and they checked to see if there was any life on Mars, which at the point when they checked they didn't find anything. Really interesting to see kind of all the actuators and bits and pieces on here. And I think that is pretty much it for the museum part. There was also a kind of 360 I guess it is 360 cinema thing that I went in, which discussed about kind of the Voyager probe and its mission and things that it found. Unfortunately I can't link that. I might show you a quick video inside before it started. Looks like they have some kind of library here. Unfortunately closed today. But lots of space stuff inside and lots of magazines and books by the looks of it to do with space and UFOs, I guess. There's the boss. So, pretty cool place, considering it cost £2.50 to go in there and do all of that. I think that's pretty good value. Something a bit different to the usual that I've done before. It's nice to have a day on my own. Like I said, it probably took about just over an hour to get here, but it's well worth a visit if you're this way. Back to our trusty Delica Mini to go find some food, I think. So yeah, just got back to the car. I think we will go and find something to eat. I don't know if that's a little cafe there. I'm gonna go have a look. I think it might only do drinks and ice cream. Ice cream does sound good because it's, I think, 25 degrees at the moment, and 25 degrees and an ice cream does sound good. So I might go there anyway. But yeah, so that place costs £2.50 to go inside there, and it's not a huge place. I think it's more of an educational place. It has a couple of like halls for presentations and bits and pieces. Yeah, it's a really nice place, and the fact that it's got so much genuine, not memorabilia or artifacts, but genuine pieces that have been into space and come back, I think that's got to be well worth £2.50. I mean, £2.50 for an adult. I can't remember how much a child was, but it would be obviously less. Yeah, so I recommend if you are ever this way, well worth a stop. But yeah, recommend it. Come here and have a look.